Wait a second. Something's going terribly wrong. What is it, Nooms? Okay. Mine is working.
And now mine is working. Okay. So
Okay.
my OBS decided to default again, as opposed to remembering that it's supposed to be what's coming into my headset. So
That's funny.
you were like, "Hello and welcome," and the bar didn't move, and I went,
Hmm.
So you can go again.
Why?
Well, you haven't said hello and welcome now.
Oh, they couldn't hear me live? Okay. Hello and welcome to the live recording of Season 3, Episode 46 of the Breed Manifesto. Faith, Hope, and Love for the Modern Christian.
We're having
I'm
technical
Pastor Phil,
difficulties this morning.
And we're just this morning. Did you move out of Tennessee somewhere in a different time zone? Because it's not morning anymore.
Are you sure? It's 6:30.
PM.
Oh, crap.
Post meridian.
Oh, okay. I'm here. I'm paying attention. I'm alive.
Are you?
Yeah. I did. You are correct. I had both lunch and supper already. Hello, Biggs. Thanks for saying hello. And then saying yo. So hello again.
Yo. He says yo. Alright.
And before he says anything, for the viewership out there, I did go see Libby this week.
Did you?
So when she hears me, hopefully, she won't freak out too much, because I was just there a couple days ago.
Alright.
Which was a really funny story as to why we had to go over there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So why'd you have to go over there?
So, the oldest child, Rain, decided, well, she didn't decide. One of her tooths became loose, one of her molars.
One of her teeth decided.
Yeah. It was loose.
He can do such a thing.
And it wasn't loose enough for her to pull, but it was loose enough to where it was causing some pain and discomfort and some annoyance, because it's a molar, you know. And normal people around that age lose their, baby teeth, as opposed to when they're 30.
Yeah?
So, she comes to me and she's like, "Dad, I can't pull it, and it hurts, but I can't pull it."
Yeah.
We're at a
It's
minute
hard.
and a half.
It's difficult.
And I don't like things that are icky. So, it's not happening. I'm not pulling. That's another thing we'll talk about. I'm sorry, sir. No, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to sit somewhere else. I'm sorry. So, she comes to me and she's like, "Dad, my tooth, it needs pulled. I can't do it. Can you pull it?" I'm like, "No. I call Biggs." And she's like, I don't want to bother Biggs. It's 7:45 at night. I was like,
Yeah.
Biggs will love being needed in that way, and using the fact that he was a dental assistant for them years to pull your teeth. If you want me to drive you across town, I'll drive you across town. I don't want to waste your night. You're in the middle of something. And I'm like, "No, baby, it's all good. Like, we can do it. Your health is more important than me sitting here." And so 45 seconds. We decide, I'm like, "All right, cool." So we drive across town. He makes a big deal of it, lays her down in the chair that's in the living room under the light. That's his chair, and lays it back, and he puts one finger in, and of course the tooth is wiggly, and he's like, "Okay, I'll be right back." Goes and gets a napkin and comes back, and he's like, "Okay, now I'm gonna pull it in 3, 2, okay, there you go." She's like, "You didn't say 1." He goes, "Yeah, you didn't cry, so we're good." 5 seconds. So I saw Libby because she got a tooth pulled, and now they can see our faces.
Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 46 46 of the Berean Manifesto. Faith, hope, and love for the modern Christian. I'm Pastor Bill, and I'm joined by Pastor Nooms, as always, who is just cracking himself up over there. What is so funny, bro?
As we've talked about a bunch of times on the podcast, your internet sometimes is shoddy. Both your cell phone internet.
You mean on Sundays?
Yeah, especially on Sundays. Like every now and then there's a little bit of a problem. Something about Sundays. So the whole pre-meeting, it's been fine. The moment you went, heh, and you kept talking, but you were right here. So it was the moment they could actually see you. You froze.
I froze, yeah.
So it's just that funny situation of, but, so,
all right, this week we're going to be talking about grace, right? And so we'll be spending some time in Hebrews chapter 4. If you guys are wanting to pre-open your Bibles somewhere, I'm not sure if Pastor Nooms had anywhere that he's going to be pulling up tonight. Usually he's not the, hey, I found this in the scripture, let's talk about this kind of guy. He's more of the, I saw this in real life. I know there's a scripture that correlates to that. What is it, Pastor Bill? And I'm like, oh, that's this. And he's like, yes, I knew there was something. I could remember, but I wasn't sure. Yeah. And I'm more of the, well, let's start here, and then we'll go from there. Different mindsets. And that's good. It's great because it gives us this give and take. We riff off of each other, and it kind of escalates everything when we're talking and carries us forward. I know you had said in jest, we were talking about when we were talking about last week's topic, you had said something about being under certain pastors and yada yada, and I said, okay, but you're in my church, like I'm the senior pastor, but I don't think of you as being under me. I think of you as being equal to me, and we're pastors together. And you were like, no, I've never thought about it as you being over me or higher than me, and I was like, yeah, because there was a total cringe moment when I was thinking, did he just apply that to our relationship? Because that's not what this is. I'm not over him. I'm not, he's not under me. And he was like, no, it's that whole, iron sharpens iron crap or whatever. It's exactly what it is.
I didn't say crap, but that's exactly what I said. Yeah.
You didn't say crap? Did you say stuff instead?
Sure. I'm sure I said stuff.
You probably said the acronym for so high in transit.
It is.
That's probably what you said.
Typically. I am more crass than others.
Right.
No, but what you're saying is really funny, and it's true. And like you mentioned last week, we were talking about the scripture, and you're like, and I came across this thing, and I was like, oh, that's why I believe that, and I didn't even realize it. I had a similar moment this week where, like, I was reading something, and I went, oh, that, didn't realize that's where I got it from. Okay, that's okay. But yeah, so now you have to ask me a question, because we haven't done that yet.
I do. I have to ask you, how was your week, Pastor Nooms?
It was good. A little crazy, starting the new job, so everything's a little, everything's busy because of that. And lots of meetings to get caught up and learn everything I need to learn and all that kind of stuff. So I've been pretty busy. And today I had to move a bunch of stuff in my house because one of my cats is misbehaving, which is why, in case you heard it on the audio, I don't know if you could or not, but Mr. Amy came through and was yelling at me because the boxes that he lays on in my office that are supposed to be bookshelves, we haven't gotten them yet, are gone. They're in the garage because one of the cats is not behaving herself. And so he came in and he walked over to the window and looked up at it and then looked over at me and started meowing. And that's why I was like, oh, sorry, sir, you're going to have to go lay down somewhere else. And he just looked at me and walked away all like, dude, you got to... I'm like, oh crap. So
Rude, bro. Totally
yeah.
rude.
Overall, it's good. It's good. We didn't stream at all, I don't think. Just because
No.
I was very tired every
Yeah,
night.
you were tired all week. Just
So,
drained from the new job.
yeah, just all the learning is, it's rough when you're learning a new job. And so getting caught up, and it's going to be good. Really enjoying it. Love a lot of what they do as a company. It's just got to get there. And so I've been swamped. How was your week?
We will be doing some streaming in the upcoming week, though.
Yeah, and I might break one of my cardinal rules, actually, this week.
No, don't do that.
I might, actually.
No.
But
don't do it.
But the server launches at 8 a.m.
Okay, you can wait until I get the game fully downloaded before you play, and then we can stream together.
I understand that, but that might not be 5 p.m. So, whereas one of my cardinal rules is you never stream during work hours, depending on how my meetings look. We'll see what happens.
No streaming during work hours.
Then it's going to be 4:45. You better be ready to go, because
I can only install as fast as my internet will.
And now I realize after I just said that, you're going to forcefully go, oh, it's not downloaded yet. Oh, it's not downloaded yet. And then at 5:01, you're going to be like, hey, look, it finished. And so...
I would not lie to you.
No, but you would purposely not check it so that way you didn't know if it was or not.
Maybe.
I know you, homie. Neither one of us will lie to the other one, but we real good. We're like those taffy pullers when we have to be. You know, like, I'm not going to break the taffy, but that taffy is
almost stretch it.
The truth never got broke, but man, it it got worked when it comes to the professional world sometimes. That got to get stretched a little. Anywho,
so my week.
How was your week?
I discovered a new to me game, Outer Worlds. It is right there in. You're laughing because I know you can't hear him on the audio or see his face if you're listening to the audio, but he's laughing because it's not a new game. It's an old game.
No, to be fair, it's only like 2 years old. It's only like
2 years old, but it's new to me, and it's right in the vein and the niche of the things that I like. Like, it's steampunk, but also with some elements of cyberpunk, and then it's like, the Half-Life type engine from the old Half-Life game, so it's immersive, and it's got all these elements.
That's okay.
What?
Nothing.
What did you say?
It's the Unreal Engine, but that's okay. I can't let it go with a glaring technical issue like that. But continue.
You do know Half-Life wasn't built on the Unreal Engine. Right?
I'm fully aware. It had its own engine.
Its own engine, yes.
Right.
The Half-Life engine, yes.
Right. This was built on the Unreal Engine.
Right, but this is reminiscent of...
Yes, definitely. 100%.
The Half-Life engine.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. We're on Twitch, and I didn't need the comment of, you do know that was... I'm not dealing with it. I'm not dealing with the super nerds.
Not dealing with that.
No.
All right. So it's been really good for me. It's right in there in my, the kind of thing that I like.
And it's satirical.
So that's
it's
been fun.
So satirical. It's so much fun.
And it's so satirical. And it's got lots of little elements that you can tell they pulled from their fans of this game, they're fans of that show, and this and that. And you can see those elements kind of, winded into the game, and you're like, hey, this is actually just the recreated scene from that one show.
Yep.
This whole kitchen is just recreated from that one show. I don't want to say the name of that one show on here because if I'm wrong, I don't want you to get the hate comments on
Thank you.
Twitch either.
Thank you. We're not saying anyone did any copyright infringement, but we're just saying...
Hey, it looks just like to
me. They gave
a
nod to...
Yeah.
And that was a conversation me and you had, and that's like, they didn't recreate it. You're like, fine. They were heavily inspired by, and they showed their love through. I was like, there you go. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. All right, so that's been fun. In my free time, I've been doing that. And I got to see my mama this week, post her surgery, after her surgery. She's doing well, so that's good. I'm glad that she's doing well. And that was pretty much my whole week. I can't think of
you tore apart the car console.
Well, that was today, but yeah, I guess that counts as part of this week. I have never torn apart a car console that was so reinforced in my life. Every other car I've had, you give some pressure, the clips pop, and then you kind of, you do this number to loosen it up and pull it off. And this has got clips and bolts and screws, and I'm like, what? It was crazy. But basically, we have this sensor that needs to be replaced, and every time the sensor then shows an alert, it dings, ding, ding, and so you'll be sitting at a red light, and it'll literally just be going ding, 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 because the alert will go off and then come back on again, off and come back on again, off. So every time it does it, the screen also flashes. And then you get a message on the little center console, a new message on the center console, so it beeps as well. So you got ding, beep, ding, beep, ding, beep, as you're sitting there, okay, I gotta fix this. So, since it takes a while to get in to see the mechanic sometimes, because of working out schedules, and Roxanne's still gotta work in that car, I pulled apart the dash and ripped out that speaker that controls all the dings. So no more dings for that, or for low fuel, or for seatbelt warning, or for, hey, your keys are in the ignition and the door's open. We don't need any of those. They're all gone.
Which is great, up until when you need one of those, and I'm going to laugh when you're like, oh, guess what happened? To answer Biggs' question, I don't know where everyone else is. No one else has shouted out that they're here. So, I don't know.
Is anyone else even here?
It shows that we have 3 viewers, so I'm assuming they're lurking, and that's okay.
I lurk. I don't like to sound off either, so don't feel bad if you're not sounding off because you just want to watch.
See,
I'm the same way.
So there's the other viewers. Phoenix and Zadie are both
Phoenix, here. Zadie, Biggs. So, yeah.
I'm not sure why Phoenix felt the need to yell at us.
She's like, I'm here. Rain is watching.
And Rain is watching. She doesn't count in the viewership because I haven't actually gotten her Twitch login, which I should, but I haven't yet. But they're upstairs watching. I showed them how to log into Twitch get to Twitch without logging in, and so she's like, "Can I watch?" I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, that was my week. That was your week. So now it's time for getting to know the pastors, and we are on an even numbered episode. And also,
you did it last
my
week?
card last week.
Yeah.
So, I said it before you did. So this week is we pull a card from Pastor Nooms' deck. So what question are we going to be answered this week in it's upside down, in getting to know the pastors?
Horses, your name, your what? Oh, okay.
What about horses, your name? What?
I don't care. No, we're not.
You were just making stuff up? What is this horses, your name stuff?
It says, well, I was reading it backwards, like if you were reading it the wrong direction. And so the question's actually, if you could enter a racehorse in the Kentucky Derby, what would you name your horse? And I'm not going there. So we're skipping that card because those names are stupid. They always are. Okay. If you were asked to make a top 10 list of the people you regard as the all-time greatest Americans, whom would you rank third?
Oh my gosh. Montezuma.
says second and first, but I just find it funny that they started with, instead of saying who would you name first, second, and third, it was just who would you name third? Who's your third favorite American?
Third would be Montezuma.
I guess it didn't specify United States, so okay.
Yeah, you got
North
North America,
America,
Central America, and South
correct.
America.
You're correct. And Phoenix, I will invite you to the church's Discord server. Give me just a second while we're talking.
Okay.
So you're saying Montezuma.
Yeah.
If I had to list, that's weird. See, I'm bad at picking and listing out, all these questions about list or do or things like that is so, I'm real bad at it. So I'm just gonna say my third favorite of all times is just because these two names popped in my head, either Stanley or Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, so my third would be Zuma. My second would be Sally Fields. Okay. And my first would be Richard Dean Anderson.
I don't know the first one.
MacGyver.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll give it to you.
O'Neill on 30 SG1.
Yep. No, I got you. Okay. For my second and first, I'd have to say, like, man, I don't know. I'm so bad at picking. I've never been able to say, like, here's my list. Like, I'm terrible at it. I can't make decisions like that. When someone says choose your favorite this, I almost just want to be like, okay, I can't answer that. I'll die now, because that's easier than answering the question. I really liked Einstein, because the dude was crazy as a loon.
Going for a German American.
Yeah. I know he didn't technically start here, but
he did get citizenship here.
He did. Your audio.
On the basis of thanks for coming.
Your audio got a little fuzzy, but that's okay. We'll fix it in post.
Well, in post, I'll just use what's recorded on Bertha over here,
which I'm assuming is not why. I'm assuming it's the send that's causing a problem.
Yeah.
It's just like. It's almost like your audio switched devices, though, so you might want to check to make sure. But
I will double check.
But it's probably just the send. The favorite your top 3 people from the Americas, Zadie. And that would be my number 1. That would be my number 1. Would be Zadie. She's my favorite American.
Zadie would be your number 1.
Zadie would be my favorite American. Yeah.
I didn't think we were given gimme answers.
Going just super stereotypical. My wife is my favorite American.
My wife. I like my wife. I'm not biased or anything. She's awesome.
Yeah, not biased at all.
Biggs on Twitch says Chuck Norris. And I don't want to roll my eyes because he might actually legitimately mean that because he's not a zillennial. But Gen Z and millennials are all like, Chuck Norris, ha ha ha. But Biggs isn't even in that generation, so he might legitimately mean.
We actually watched
Chuck Norris.
a whole lot of Texas Walker Range, so he could actually mean Like, because I watched some of the old Chuck Norris
Walker
movies.
Texas Ranger was legit back
and same
in the
with like
day.
some of the older movies where it's like, oh, he could actually break your nose. Okay, cool. Like, oh yeah, he ripped that guy's arm out by accident. Oops.
Yeah. Yeah, he was pretty amazing. Biggs then follows up by saying Abraham Lincoln as his second person. And Zadie says she doesn't think she has any top 3 favorite Americans, family aside.
Zadie's like me. She really struggles. Like, my favorite, if you want to break her, just go in there and be like, pick your favorite this. And then just watch her facade crumble as her mind goes 10,000 different places. That's a fictional person.
John Hurt?
No, that's not someone from Americas. That's what I meant.
Okay. I was like, fictional person? What?
I will allow Keanu Reeves. But John Hurt is British. Bruce Lee, I don't know if we can consider him. I don't know if he was ever fully...
I don't think he was an American citizen.
I don't think he was... Snape. Yeah, try again.
Definitely not.
That's not his name. But I don't think I don't think Alan Rickman was either. I think he was European.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
yeah,
that's okay.
He's a British actor.
But anyway, yeah. So that would be, yes, English. But the question was American actors or American people, which means North, South, Central America. I would have to say probably my favorite American though would be whoever in my past actually came here. So
the
that
one
way,
that blessed you with being born in the Americas.
Because
there's a lot of good countries out there, though.
There are.
There's a lot of bad countries, but there's a lot of good countries.
There are. And, mine didn't have to flee their country because they were horse thieves. So, it's okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That was low, and I'm sorry.
That was really low.
It was so low.
It's not me, it was them. Zadie says then Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki.
Oh. I'll allow it.
Supernatural fan.
She is.
Yeah. Except the new Walker Texas Ranger.
Is it bad?
Yeah. It's pretty bad. It's not.
I didn't want to even try it because it didn't seem like it would be. Oh wow! Even Zadie says it's hard to watch, and that's literally one of her top 10 actors.
It's not written well for him, and they took this iconic concept that Chuck Norris played so well, and then tried to make it into a modern sitcom. And so it's got this cringe to it. Yeah.
And Biggs said that our ancestors weren't horse thieves that I know of, which now worries me a little. No, we are definitely not blaming him as an actor. Some roles just aren't made for people.
And I understand why he did it. It makes sense even.
A bad script's a bad script.
Written with him in mind.
I mean, you can't. There's been, there's some people you're like, I love this person, and you watch this movie, you're like, they didn't read the script beforehand.
And unfortunately, with TV shows, there isn't always a script beforehand.
No.
There's a pilot.
There's a concept.
And then, there's a concept. And the writers are writing while you're recording. Yeah. And, sometimes they're coming in with updates as you're about to do a scene. And you're like, okay, now I got to learn these new lines for the scene that I'm already recording.
One of the weird things, though, is when you realize some of the actors, but you don't, some of the writers, but you don't realize they're writers. Like, today...
Speaking of writers...
What?
Russell T Davies is retaking the
Yeah, I
masthead of
heard.
Doctor Who.
I heard.
What? Why are you being like that?
I don't know how I feel about it 100%.
He wrote for 9. He
I know.
wrote for 10.
I know. He's not a bad writer. He's not a bad writer. It always worries me when someone exits, whether by their choice or not, and then comes back, because it can cause one of two things. It can cause the show to have a visible switch, which it can be super fourth wall breaking anytime someone changes. But when it changes and then changes back, it can cause some issues. So I don't know how I feel about it until I see
But
the
you do know
results.
why they're bringing him back, right?
Because the current writers are doing so terrible, is what I heard. Yeah.
No. It's not that you heard it. It's that Chris Chibnall, who is literally the head of the show right now, said it. We're bringing him back, hoping he can redo for Doctor Who now what he did in 2005.
Now, was it his choice to leave?
Revitalizing a dead show.
Was it his choice to leave?
As far as I know, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe it wasn't bad. Maybe if it was his choice to leave and he doesn't hold any hostilities, then maybe it'll be okay. I've
never
seen.
know. You find out later.
Yeah. And so
when Eccleston left and they said, oh, it was planned, to introduce regeneration to a new people, and then later it came out that
yeah,
it didn't go down that way. And
but I was watching a particular show,
so.
and this particular show does now. They haven't always, but recently they started in the last season. At the end of the show, the writers for that show make comments on the show.
Right.
And one of the writers showed up, and I went, I didn't realize that she wrote for the show. Like, I love her comedy. I love watching her do other things that she's done. Some of her D&D stuff and some of her other.
Her name?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's I don't know.
My brain works the same way. I'll see it, recognize it.
Yeah.
You remember their work, and then 10 minutes later, I'll be like,
it's gone.
I don't remember what that name was.
I can't even remember the main writer of that show, and it's his production company.
Like just now when we were talking a second ago, I had to go look up the names of Supreme Court justices, just in case I got asked, who's your number 4? So I could remember what the guy's name is. That is my number 4. So I had to go look up what his name is, because I can't remember his name. I remember some of the opinions he wrote in decisions from when he was sitting in the Supreme Court, but I can't remember his name.
I can never remember actors. I have to IMDb a movie I can remember and hope I remember that name, and then get to the person. There have been times I've had to IMDb another actor because I couldn't remember the name of the movie, to then look up the person in the movie, to then go look up what the...
Like, you're like, I know Kevin Bacon's in that one movie with him. Wait, that doesn't narrow it down.
Well, and it's...
Samuel Jackson was in it. No, that doesn't narrow it down.
This happened to us the other day, where we were watching Deep Space Nine, and I was like, oh, is that person that person? And I couldn't remember either person's name.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes. Oh. So.
Is that person from the Orville? With the lady? Yes, that is the doctor from the Orville. Yes.
Which is supposed to be coming back very, very soon on Hulu, because it is now a Hulu exclusive. But it's supposed to be coming back. They're supposedly finished the next season, which
I should hope so. I mean, he was literally one of the ground floor people that got Hulu started. So like, if his own show can't find an exclusive home on Hulu,
well, it was when he did that. Hulu and Fox worked extremely well together, and all of his other shows were on Fox. But I guess Fox decided they didn't want to deal with the Orville right now, even though they had ordered the run and paid for it to be done. But because they're the major shareholder for Hulu, it was like, we'll just put it there. Let's be honest, that's where
Which
all the
works out
nerds were
great.
watching it anyway.
Right. That's where
no nerds
that's
are watching
where
live
almost
TV.
everybody was watching it.
No
Be honest.
No nerd watches live TV. We just don't.
No.
Like your sports people do, your people who need the news.
Most of us who watch TV shows, like, you know, the actual demographic they're going for shows like the Orville, we wait until the season's done.
Yeah.
And then binge the whole thing. Like when you're released to streaming and you're like, we're gonna release one episode every week until it's done, and I'm like, well, then you're gonna not see me in any of the viewership numbers until you've done releasing them all. Just release them all and let me watch them. Anyway, current contracting is tricky as far as residuals on streaming for paying actors and for paying production companies. And until they update the way they contract for things like that, we won't see a lot of just dumps onto streaming.
But we're seeing a lot more because the actors guilds and stuff are forcing it because they know it's the future, because no one, especially our generation and especially the generation below us, just don't even.
Well, see, the thinking in the past was, and the contracts were written thinking about live TV. If a show releases, then it can charge a certain amount for commercials in the beginning, and then as the buzz builds, it can charge more for commercials, which then is more revenue, which then puts more money in the actors' pockets. So actors did make more money in the long run that way. But now with streaming, you've either got commercial free or you've got commercials, which, you know, there are some Hulu people that don't have the Plus program. They watch commercials.
Peasants.
Even when they're streaming. And it ends up being just the opposite. If you make this current generation wait, the viewer numbers go down as the season progresses, not up. Because everything's so fast and available and it's right in front of our faces. And so it doesn't really work for their benefit anymore to release them slow and drawn out. But
so I mute myself when I take a drink from that particular drink because it's very loud.
Man, it's awful. It's awful.
Right? And the funny thing is when we're on Teams, Discord doesn't care. Discord's like, cool, you muted yourself. That was nice. But Teams is like, hey, we can't hear you, but we know you're trying to talk.
The big thing pops up. And
so because I have to capture your whole screen, it actually happens on the stream too. It's like, I can't hear you. You're like, you're not supposed to. So I try to dismiss it as quick as I can, but that just started happening again this week. So I don't know what.
People watching the live and it's like, we can't hear you.
You're like,
you're not supposed to hear me. I'm just watching a live show.
I'm drinking a drink.
Why do you want to hear me?
So.
All right. We're really warmed up at this point.
Yeah, we're 10 minutes past warmed up normally.
Yeah, we're like, well, warm up is a feeling, not a time.
But let's be honest. I mean, there are times where we deserve to have grace in the amount of time that we allot for things, and as people will forgive us for running over in our warm up.
This silence is me contemplating going back to a one-host show.
I'm back. We're good.
Okay. As I said, we're going to be looking at Hebrews chapter 4.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to turn there or cue there in your device, let's start in verse 14 of Hebrews chapter 4. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast to our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in every way as we are, yet without sin. Therefore, let us approach the throne of grace with boldness, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in time of need. Thoughts, Pastor Nims?
I don't like that word.
Which one?
Confession.
Confession.
Yeah. So, confession...
A statement of the mouth?
Acknowledgement and profession. Like you've professed something. Confession, nowadays, often means something different than what this word implies. The KJV actually uses
translated
profession. Yeah. The NASB and the CSB both do confession, but it's homologen, whatever.
Homoagia.
Right, that's what I said. Which is acknowledgement or or profession and professed. What is I read the word. I didn't think about reading the phonetic under it. That would make more sense to try to read, since I don't read so well. But, you know, it works. This is why I let you deal with the Greek, homie. Tell me that don't look like... Tell me that don't look like homologen.
I don't know where you're putting an E in there.
I'm not. Login.
You said homologen.
Yeah, like log in. Oh, that's an A. That's not an N.
Yeah.
Ah. Yeah, I don't know, man. But no, because at first I was like, wait, hold fast our confession, but it's confessing the grace of okay, I'm with us again.
Yeah, it's a confession of covenant. It's specifically it's from the word homologeo. Homology. No.
I said it so bad he cannot read the phonetics that's plainly written on the screen.
I can't read the phonetics anymore. My brain is broken at this point. I'm looking at the screen going, I know how phonetics work. I can't read this phonetics right now. Anyway, it's a confession of your relationship, but that's not where we are at the moment.
It's
one
not.
One of the things that jumped out at me that I wanted to just hit on right quick is in verse 15, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, the one who has been tempted in every way as we are, yet without sin. So when you feel tempted to do something that you know is, feel like is, suspect is wrong, right? And I'm not talking about, oh, so-and-so said this was wrong, and I don't think it is. But when you feel tempted to do something that's wrong, think about the fact that Jesus also faced the same temptation. Now, it may not have been exactly the same thing.
Right.
Because Jesus didn't have cars, TVs, computers. So it may not be the exact same thing, but the base of that temptation, the actual root of the temptation, how you apply that temptation to other situations, Jesus faced those same type of temptations. Temptations to steal, temptation to kill, temptation to covet your neighbor's whatever. I'm trying to tie these back into phrases that the Bible uses that we still face. but we might not see them the same way. Might not use them in the same scenarios.
Like my neighbor who's got the car that I really, really want, and when she presses on the gas pedal, it just goes vroom vroom, and I want it so bad, but it's not mine.
It's not yours.
But every time she starts her car and I'm in my office, I'm like, oh, it sounds so pretty. I want one so bad. Now that's, there is a line between I will do anything to get it and, true sinful covetousness, but it sounds so pretty.
Right.
I get real close with that challenger next door of coveting my neighbor's horse. Cause, well, that's what it is. It's her horsepower.
It is her horsepower, yeah. Yeah.
It sounds so pretty.
All right. So verse 16, therefore let us approach the throne of grace with boldness, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in time of need. So often the terms mercy and grace are used interchangeably in modern vernacular. But not so much in biblical vernacular.
No, they mean very different things.
These are two very different things, right? So we're receiving mercy. What is mercy?
I just clicked away from the exact definition.
In your words, what is mercy?
Being merciful isn't the correct answer to what is mercy.
No, it is not.
Showing compassion, being like, merciful is the only word coming to my mind, and it's not correct. But showing kindness, showing compassion to people even when they don't deserve it.
Right. When they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's mercy. And that's the key to mercy. Mercy exists when you don't deserve it. If you deserve it, it's not mercy.
Yeah.
It's not mercy. Right? Right. And what is grace? Let me make it easier for you. When you have a credit card and your bill is due every month, what is a grace period?
It's a withholding of the punishment.
It's a withholding of punishment within a certain window. Right?
In a grace period, because you add period to it, yes.
Right. But grace exists in windows. They always do. Right? There's graciousness. They have such grace. I'm, bestowing grace. So basically, grace is this distance from punishment. And we come to the throne of grace. We come to the throne that is distanced from punishment, so that we receive mercy, what we haven't earned. We haven't earned this mercy. Not that we earned torture, right?
Right.
But that we haven't earned the mercy. And we find there, when we receive this mercy, we find there this grace. And so I always use the analogy of the highway, the mountain highway, right? So someone built a mountain highway, and people were hitting these curves too hard and flying off the mountain and dying. So something had to be done. So somebody came along and they built a guardrail. Now what happens?
Depending on how fast you are going, you might get saved by the guardrail.
You might, or you'll plow right through it. But you can see the edge from a distance now, right?
Yep.
This is what God did when he gave the law. Oh, I can see the edge, but the law's not going to stop me from going over the edge. And the edge is still there. All the law did was make it easier for me to see the edge. The edge was already there. But now I can see the edge. Mercy is after you've gone over the edge, the emergency responder's coming and pulling your busted butt back up onto the road. And that's what Jesus did. He came and pulled our busted butts back onto the road when we fall off, when we fell off. If we're all on a bus together and that bus goes down the road and it falls over, this is what Jesus did. He got down there and he pulled us back up onto the road. And now we have a decision. We can stay on the road or we can jump back in the ditch. Now the analogy is kind of getting muddy, but let's get to the grace part. Imagine someone came along and said, there's a lot of people dying on this road. What if we dig into the mountain and we create more lanes? So if people want to drive next to the guardrail, they can. But if they want to distance themselves from the guardrail and drive over there where it's safer, they also can. That's grace. Choosing to drive over there away from the guardrail. Is there anything wrong with driving next to the guardrail? No. Not if you're being responsible. Right?
Yeah.
This is grace. These extra lanes, all these extra lanes. This is your choice. You've been given grace. You exist in grace. And you choose. Am I going to drive over there? Am I going to drive over here? It doesn't matter which part of that distance from the intermountain you're driving, you're still driving on the road within grace. And what happens when you do plow through the guardrail? Mr. Mercy's down there, picking you back up, dusting you off, putting you back on the road, going, hey, this isn't a problem. We dealt with this. We dealt with this problem. And now we're all driving down the road under grace. We have to decide now, what destination are we driving towards? And there's only two destinations. Faith or not faith.
I can understand your analogy, as I have each time you've used it.
Right? I use it a lot.
You do. I don't 100% agree. I've always equated grace to being a little more than that.
Expound.
So, like, the the window is freaking out and it's making my eyes twitch.
Come on, man. You got like 5 minutes.
I know. So
Focus.
for me, grace has always been, God gave us the law. We know what the law is.
Some of us.
Some of us, yeah. We know what sin is. Sin is missing the mark, not being perfect. There are things that are in the law that are sin. There are things that are just out of the law and then are still sin. You know, we have all these things. And I think that the grace is that ability that God has through Jesus, him covering us, is that covering that we have, so that we don't receive the eternal punishments for sin, which it works on your analogy, but I think takes it a step farther, that the people who built the highway also included awnings to protect from hail.
You mean fire and brimstone?
Hail's hail. Hail.
Sulfur,
hail,
fire,
hail,
brimstone.
hail. I mean,
blood. Big says.
I got, well, blood's the covering.
Oh.
I got scolded earlier because I said high knees. You know, would high knees help with that?
And you meant high
knees.
Knees.
Yeah. Hitting your hands with your knees, high knees. And
yeah.
And my wife and Phoenix both looked at me and went, "How's her high knee gonna help?" And I'm like, no, doing high knees. What
are you gonna do to the high knee?
What are you wanting our 9-year-old to do? And I'm like, no, like when you stand and you do like this and you touch your high knees. Yeah. I'm too country. So hail can mean both. Both the physical and the spiritual. So to me, that's always what grace has been. I get the guardrail. I understand and agree with you. I just think it takes it that step farther of that covering us from the eternal punishment, which I know you equate to mercy as well and sanctification. And when you get to the end, that's when those decisions are made.
Really tangled.
They're really, again. Here we
go.
Not
interchangeable.
Here we go.
Here we go. Aren't interchangeable. But they're really tangled.
I made it 57.5 minutes before I say it. English is a bad language, so because of that,
I'm surprised you made it that far.
Get fuzzy. But I think that to me, that's the grace, is that covering of, certain amounts of our sin has consequences. As Paul says, anything is permissible, but not everything is uplifting or healthy, or I can't remember which word he uses. Beneficial. Thank you. So there are consequences for things. Not everything uplifts you, but grace helps cover some of that and allows us to move through it. Now,
but not physically.
Not physically. Now, I will say in that there is this concept that is taught in some modern churches, very, very modern, and some old, of hyper grace. Yeah.
Hyper grace.
Which, as we believe here at
in this analogy, somebody filled the valley with concrete.
And there's no way to run off the road. Everything is permissible.
It's all concrete, and it's inside of a giant warehouse now, and we're all running circles on the left. That's hyper grace.
We don't, as myself, and I know Pastor Bill, so I could technically say the Berean Manifesto as a whole, does not condone hyper grace of there is no such thing as consequences, and God will cover all of our consequences, both now, later, forever. Nothing hurts your spirit, nothing hurts your soul, nothing has any effect on the world around us.
We see here of Jesus needing to wipe away every tear in the end.
Yeah.
When we're in our spiritual bodies, and it's like, well, what are we crying about? Did you miss the Bema part? Did you miss the judgment part?
Yeah.
Where your spirit is judged? And it carries all that stuff. Wait, did you miss that part? Like,
Grace is him looking at us and going, "You messed up a lot, but you did alright. Like, you made the right decisions in the end. You messed up a lot, though."
yeah.
And
like if my son came to me and he said, "I've been hiding it, but I like men," he would say boys. He wouldn't say men. Grace would look back and say, "Okay, that doesn't change anything. You still have the security of your bed. You still live in my home. You still eat my food. You still have my love." That's Grace. Right?
Yeah.
Mercy is when he goes out and he gets some girl pregnant and he comes home and he says, "I messed up. I got so-and-so pregnant." Mercy says, "All right, you and I are a team. This doesn't change anything. We're going to deal with the consequences. We, together." That's mercy. Right?
Yeah. And as you said, there is so much interlocking, interweaving of, the terms of grace and mercy and sanctification and not justification. Not salvation, not sanctification. There's the other one. Me moving my hands up and down are not going to help me find it, so I don't know why I'm doing it.
Jurisprudence? I don't know where you're going with this.
I don't either. But there's so much that it intertwines that it becomes very hard to separate them all into concepts sometimes. And so, but yeah, I think that's a really big deal of grace and mercy, and we have to continue to show it to others as well. I came across...
Not just to others. One of the steps to loving yourself is allowing yourself some grace and some mercy. Continue with what you were going to say there.
I don't need that today. I don't need you preaching at me while we're sitting here. All right? Thank you. So I was in the family Bible study this week, and the lady that's teaching it.
Are you sure you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
The lady teaching
I'm not going to stop you. I just want to make sure you thought this through.
I did. Not someone in the family. I don't mean like the leader.
Just the whole topic. Just the whole situation. I just want to make sure you...
I know what I'm doing. And if
That's what I'm afraid of.
If I go too far, I'll hear about it on Saturday during family Bible study. But she brought up a verse and was talking about this particular verse. And then she jumped ahead and used another verse. But the verses in between the two verses that she used, see, I handled it. The verses in between talked about how we have to use gentleness with others outside of... And it was really funny because, it's one of those moments where when you read it, you're like, oh, that's what I've been basing some things on. Because the language and how it's used, I'm like, oh, this is what I've said to people. I forgot where, like you last week, where you're like, I found this thing that I've based this huge part of my life on, and I didn't remember it. Yeah. For me, this is this part in 2 Timothy 2:24 is where this particular thing starts. So that's 2 Timothy 2:24, because I know I put a lot of extra in that.
Which says,
the Lord's servant must not quarrel, but be gentle to everyone, able to teach and patient, instructing his opponents with gentleness, Perhaps God will grant them repentance, leading them to the knowledge of truth. They may come to their senses and escape the trap of the devil, who has taken them captive to do his will. And, there's a lot of extra words in there that I don't, aren't the point that I was making. They're all important, but not where I was going. Which is, we have to, when we are instructing, or when we are preaching, or when we are helping people, we have to do it with gentleness. And it just brings to mind so often, there are people who don't. We've all dealt with it. The hellfire and brimstone preachers in the evangelical community. Now, I'm not saying preaching hell is bad, because hell is a place. You have to preach it. But the whole, taking it that step too far, where you're like, and because you've ever sinned, you're gonna, and you're a this and you're a that, and attacking the person when they take that step past talking about the wages of sin is death. When they take that step past it and start talking about the person and attacking people that don't agree with them. So we have, there's a lot of ministry that happens to people who know the Bible and have walked away from it, their teachings, their upbringings, or never accepted it because they found flaws or were taught other things. And so often Christians...
Let's back up.
Okay.
They didn't find flaws with the scripture. They didn't find flaws with Jesus. They might have found flaws with the Bible, because a lot of people have a hard time understanding how things tie in and what things culturally. Okay,
English is bad.
The main thing that people have had a problem with is what's being taught in the church that doesn't reflect
Christ. Often, yes. So, but in that, you get these people that don't use gentleness. There's this particular person, I'm not going to name names because I won't speak ill of a pastor in a forum like this. But this particular person has made national headlines with some of the things he's said and done. And he's here in this area where I live, because I know him from high school. That's beside the point. He very much attacks people groups and people around him, as opposed to dealing with people that disagree with him with gentleness. If you disagree with this person or people like him, you don't get gentleness. Now, that being said, this is something I struggle with. Pastor Bill can tell you on multiple occasions when we have been dealing with people that I disagree with, including Pastor Bill, I do not approach it with gentleness all the time. I tell my children often, Daddy has one emotion and it tends to be anger. And so once I get to a certain point, it's just, sorry, everyone's. So I love this verse, and I've always loved this thought processes of as we talk about so much, faith, hope, and love. We have to show love through gentleness when we're dealing with people who are our opponents or people that disagree with us. And I love what it says in there. Perhaps God will grant them repentance, leading them to knowledge of the truth.
Yeah.
It's not up to us to grab someone by the shirt, drag them to the water, in this case water is Jesus, and shove their head in it and waterboard them to the point where they believe what we're trying to teach. Even someone who was as harsh as Paul, who tend to say things very, very black and white, was like, hey, we do have to be gentle, though. And sometimes you're like, was this the same dude who said, like, other things.
Wait, is this the same dude who at the stoning of Stephen volunteered to hold people's coats
Yeah.
so that he could get a good seat to watch?
Yeah.
And serve the people who were stoning this man to death? Is this the same person who
Yeah.
crucified Christians upside down? Is this the same person who...
It shows his maturity as he aged.
Yeah.
In leading Timothy as Timothy was taking on a mantle of being in leadership. It's very interesting to watch him go, now when you're talking to people that don't like you, you have to be nice about it. And I'm sure this is one of those things that Peter was like, I don't agree with Paul all the time. Because in my mind, that's something Peter would say.
Some of those things that Paul teaches are hard to understand.
But I struggle with this, of being gentle. But this is where I get the idea of friendship evangelism as opposed to... Now, I'm not saying street preaching is bad, because I've done it too. But the style of hellfire and brimstone, what we all know when I say that term, preaching.
Yeah. Street preaching without compassion is bad.
Yeah. And so when... That's something that it hit me this week, and then you were like, we're going to talk about grace. And I'm like, I'm going to talk about gentleness. And so it was just interesting that this got brought up, because it wasn't even something that was in the study I was working on. It was around it. And it was funny because someone else in the Bible study, one of my family members, brought up this passage also. And I was like, oh, that's so great to hear you say that, because that means you did the same thing I did, where she said, read this verse, and you read all of these verses and went, huh. And so I thought that was really cool also, and said it.
Yeah.
But it was just, I wanted to bring that up. The whole thing about showing grace is not just we get grace from God. We have to show grace to those around us also, because we should. And then, see, it says so right on this screen over here. But yeah, so I just wanted to, oh, interesting. Nope, not going to go there.
Okay.
But yeah, the KJV says in meekness, which is interesting.
Speak softly but carry a big stick.
Yeah, and the NASB doesn't do instructing, they say correcting. So
yeah.
I find that to be, that even adds more to what
yeah.
I was like, what's the Greek word that they're using there for gentleness? And it's the same one that can be used for meekness, and the same one that can be, Anyway, I wanted to end with that, just because, be nice to people, please, because Paul said to.
It's almost like you're saying, allow them some grace.
That is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I said that. Yeah.
Yeah, you said that. All right. So, that was great. If you want to join us when we record this live on Sunday evenings, we do that every Sunday evening when we do it. If you show up and we're not here, then we're probably not doing it that week. Don't worry, you'll catch on.
Or if you're like Biggs and you show up 1 minute early, we're just running behind.
We're just running behind. So it's every Sunday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time or Central Daylight Time. Either way, it'll be 6:30 by the clock where I live that we go live. And you can join us on Twitch. I almost said Periscope because Restream was talking about Periscope this week. It's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Yeah, Restream was like, Periscope's officially going away, so you should add Twitter to your streaming. And I was like, Twitter? No, thank you. I'm fine with the static posts that we post to Twitter. I really don't want to go live video to Twitter.
Twitter's not like garbage people. I don't like Twitter. I've never liked Twitter.
It's the land of Post Malone. Sorry, you said garbage people, and so that's who I always
Post
equate
Malone is not garbage
garbage
people.
people.
I like Post Malone.
I'm aware that you like garbage people. It's okay.
He likes my favorite restaurant, and I
That's
agree.
fine. There was a whole series of dolls made about him when he was a baby. It's okay. They were called the Garbage Pail Kids. Anyway, so you can join us on Sunday evenings.
When I come back into town, I'm gonna go to mine and Post Malone's favorite restaurant without you. You're not invited.
No, I want to go too.
No, you don't get to. You don't get to go to the restaurant where Post Malone has a picture with the owner. You don't get to go.
You don't get to tell me when and where I can't go. If I just happen to show up at the same time that you're there and sit at the same table as you do, there's nothing you can do about it.
The worst part, everyone out there in everywhere land, is he's gonna go at some point to my favorite restaurant because he can and I can't. So, and I'm gonna get a picture of just the buffet and him going. So, I can.
That's probably gonna happen this week.
I can foresee it. The next,
because you said that.
Wednesday when you're in North Richland Hills and
Yeah.
I don't get to go to Chand's.
So like I was saying, join us on Sunday evenings when we record live, so you can be part of the conversation in the chat. And why are you pouting, Noobs?
Because I don't have a Mongolian restaurant here, and now I'm depressed and want Mongolian.
I don't know if this is true, but I saw a infographic this week, and it was talking about populations, and it asserted the claim that the population of Tennessee is smaller than the population of Dallas and Fort Worth combined.
If you're talking about the whole Metroplex, I could honestly agree with that. Because there's only
Tennessee.
There's only 3 big cities in Tennessee.
That is mind-boggling to me.
No, it makes perfect sense to me.
And it was like, here's all the states that are smaller than the DFW Metroplex. And I'm not kidding you. There's only like 4 or 5 states that have populations bigger than the 2 cities in North Central Texas.
Yeah. I had a conversation with someone. They're like, the job market's about the same for Nashville and DFW. And I'm like, you don't understand the scale of DFW, obviously.
Obviously.
But.
Yeah. All right. It blew my mind. I was like, surely that's
Biggs
not
says
true.
5, so I think he might have seen the same infographic, and he's saying you're wrong on 4.
You know what? I was pretty clear on the disambiguation of the number that I was using with the
Biggs called you a liar.
The relative or and the the tone of my voice.
Biggs said you're a liar.
Okay. He's welcome to his opinion. So come and join us on Sunday night. See, I keep trying to get through this thing where I'm inviting people to join us and we keep getting sidetracked. Come and join us when we record live. If you prefer just to listen to this on the podcast, wherever you're getting your podcasts, more power to you. I'd like to hear feedback. If you have feedback, you can send it to me, email it to me, or go find me on TikTok or when the new Wisdom app drops later this month, you can go find me on there or whatever. Go find Pastor Nooms on Twitch and bother him. All right. So we love you guys. Have a great week.
Be safe out there and join us on Twitch for Gaming with the Pastors because that's fun too.
And until next time.
I'm sorry. Biggs was saying I was wrong.
Biggs called you a liar.
Yeah. He said there's 5 major cities in Tennessee, which I'm sorry, I can't agree with that.
And by major, you're meaning like villages, right?
To me, it's Memphis, Nashville, and Knoxville, and that's really people outside of Tennessee. Those are the 3 they know in my mind. But he's been here for many more years than I have, so that's fine. Be safe out there. I love you.
Until next time.
30-second buffer. 30-second buffer.
We forgot the
30-second buffer. I wonder
Has it
where
been
it's
30
from.
seconds yet?
30-second buffer. 30-second buffer. 30-second buffer.
All right, go away.
All right.
Turn it off.
Bye.
Have a good week. Go away.